welcome to another episode of the Always Be Testing podcast. I'm your host, DeGrange, and I'm thrilled to have Zoe Mackay with me today. Zoe, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's happy Friday. We've got a long weekend. It's been a long week, to say the least, but we have a long weekend coming up with Veterans Day. So I'm excited to take a little break, and I know our team is as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to jump into all things B2B, SaaS, partnerships. For those of you who don't know, Zoe Mackay is an awesome affiliate marketing leader, awesome person to know in the B2B SaaS space, leading strategic partnerships at Technology Advice. So we're going to have a fun conversation, and I'm sure you'll have some good learnings to chew on. Um, yeah, maybe kicking off, Zoe, would you share with us a little bit more about Technology Advice and just your current role there?
Yes, of course. So, as you mentioned, I lead strategic partnerships at Technology Advice. We are a portfolio of digital publications. So, we have some, websites like Fit Small Business, Tech Republic, Technology Advice, eWeek, eSecurity Planet. I could go on and on, but basically, we do it all. We have a ton of different websites where our subject matter experts are writing for the B2B audience, helping them identify what tech makes the most sense for them and really guiding them through the purchase journey. And so my team is responsible for all the strategic partnerships that we have, to cover all of those industries. But yeah, that high level, that is Technology Advice and what I do there.
Beautiful. Yeah, and our team at RBL, as you know all too well, are so invested in tech and have been fortunate to really double down and have great working relationships with technology brands and advertisers. And so we're kind of the chocolate to the peanut butter. We love to form together a great partnership with Technology Advice, with your team. And so we're grateful for that. And it's interesting to kind of share how it works with folks that are not as familiar, and so that's what we can kind of dive into a little bit today. For those who are not as familiar, are you doing CPA, CPL, flat fee? Like, how does it work for brands that are kind of how do you assess those brand opportunities that come to you in the technology space that want to work with Technology Advice?
Yeah, so like most publishers across industries, deal terms and really depend on the industry and the industry standards. So I would say it really depends. We work on all different kinds of deal terms. We do work on flat fee and upfront as well. So we have the performance side of what we do with our websites, and then we also have really wonderful sponsorship opportunities across Technology Advice and across our websites to really get involved and in front of our incredibly engaged communities and audience. So not a direct answer, but we do work in a lot of different ways with affiliate partners.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you're kind of thinking about structuring kind of like an ideal partnership, between a technology brand and all the properties that you have available, what are some of the elements that you try to consider and kind of package together and kind of make sure that are part of that arrangement? How do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I really think where we focus the most is, it is our audience, right? So, what fits our audience? What is the best audience intent, right? Where are we going to meet that? And that's really where we kind of start any question on a partnership. Does this match the intent of our audience? Does this match what they want from our content? I think as any publisher in this industry knows, Google has been very clear in what they want, and what they want is the best answer. And so that's our goal, to provide the best answer with subject matter experts, with our partnerships, and really make sure those two things, are in tune.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We'll come back to Google at some point in this talk, I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. And are you kind of mentioned the content, and my brain goes to like the writer itself. Um, how do you do such a great job of kind of like courting those great voices and kind of balancing like that authenticity with like the brand listing and the reviews? Um, I'm curious to know more about kind of like that editorial side of the business. How much do you engage in that, and how do you kind of like keep those folks happy and kind of doing their best work for you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we work very closely, right? I think one of the best things about technology advice is how closely our departments work. The editorial team is very, very closely working with business development, with SEO, and we all work on kind of like the same goal, right? Which is providing this incredibly high quality content. And partnerships are just an extension of that, right? And that's how we see them. So, yeah, I mean, we have in-house subject matter experts that we work with that build out, content for a lot of the industries that we were discussing that we write about, which
Hmm.
is quite a few. Just, looking at how large our portfolio is. But yes, we do work very, very closely. Um,
That's
I
awesome.
think kind of going back to what we were talking about with Google, like that's incredibly important. Everyone knows that. All the publishers know that. All the brands know that. We're seeing so many shifts in the algorithm and how people are ranked and why they're ranked, and the information that's coming out in that space. Scrolling through LinkedIn, it's like all you can see. At least probably it's my algorithm, but it's just all
Mine
of these
too.
suggestions. Yeah, and it's so interesting. And so I think for us, it's really trying to focus on that best answer. Everything goes back to that, and the editorial team, that's their main focus as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. So our team, you've obviously followed along with all of the Google changes and challenges, in particular that content sites in the affiliate world have been hit with or experienced, or maybe have found a way to avoid. I was blown away when our team did a pretty thorough analysis this year, which I'm sure you recall, where we looked across a lot of different verticals. Obviously, we have a sample size; it's not maybe the largest, but it's pretty sizable, especially if you think about all the content sites with all of our clients. And the decline we saw a year over year with a number of the content sites, not all. Certainly, some are doing very well, but in the aggregate, the decrease was pretty measurable. And I think it was Kevin Indig, who's a pretty prominent SEO thought leader, said almost the exact same percentage that we were measuring was what he was finding in a lot of the data that they were seeing. I'm wondering, like, how have you guys kind of you know uh, navigated that challenge? And like, I feel like there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of reality and there's a lot of like, what do individual portfolio brands are doing? So without giving away the secret sauce, I'm just curious to know, like, how have you kind of navigated all of that?
Yeah, yeah. I think like any publisher, it's every month it's something new, right? There's
Yep.
always a new update. There's always a new
Yep.
um, something. Google's doing something at all times. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I will say, we have an absolutely fantastic SEO team. They are just phenomenal. We work incredibly close with them. They're always staying on the cutting edge of SEO, making sure that we have all the best practices. And not to sound like a broken record, but I think, largely it's always, at least in my opinion, it's always back to the basics, right? It's back to the basics. What does anyone want to see? It's high quality content. You're not going to ever do well with anything besides that. And so, really, always focusing on that as our North Star is the most important thing for me.
Yeah, and I think like Google has its challenges, but they've also been I think pretty helpful. This is probably somewhat controversial because I know there's people on some sides that are like, they've lost the script, they're not giving us the signal we need, yada yada yada. I think there is a way to kind of give them what they want to some extent, give the users what they want. And I feel like technology advice is an example of how to do it correctly without painting it with rose colored glasses too much. I think there's a lot of value in like the brand building and like the specific voices and the authenticity and realism around like how you're thinking about reviewing and writing. um, there's a lot that obviously goes into that, and it's great to hear that obviously the investment in SEO is there. um, yeah, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that, but it's very fascinating. It's not an easy thing to navigate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I probably have a million and a half thoughts on that, but I will let us move on.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tricky one, and I think I would just say that like I think technology advice is one that's navigated it well and one of the winners in the space. And I think there's plenty of folks that are doing it right. Which when people enter into the affiliate world, and we talk about affiliate a lot, obviously on the show for good reason, it's there's a lot of fear out there about this stuff, and I think the fortunate thing is there's so much that can be done that doesn't necessarily feed into that and still is very successful in the content world of affiliate. It's still a very viable play. It's still a very important play. And with a partner like Technology Advice, it's sort of a no brainer if you're remotely related to tech.
Yeah. Well, you even posted on LinkedIn, I think early, was it today? And you said, it's a world that's really misunderstood, and I loved that. I think I actually loved it with with my
Thank you.
mouse, but
Thank you.
I thought that was great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was cool to get the good response, and it's something we've talked about a lot and shared a bit. So it's cool to see other people feeling that same way. It's surprising how it requires a lot of education and discussion and putting into perspective. It's not just a set it and forget. It's not just a plug and play. It's a mix of human and algorithm and content, and it's multi-channel. There's so many interesting aspects to it. I think that's what draws me and other people to it. It's constantly changing, like a lot of performance marketing. So
Yep.
appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
uh, are there aspects that you've seen in terms of maybe talking to your team or talking to clients where you've kind of had to kind of put on that education hat or debunk myths in affiliate marketing? Like how does that show up for you, or does it?
Yeah, I think it does. I think the biggest thing is probably, and you know this more than anyone, is affiliate can be done so many different ways. So many different ways. And so, really informing people how you do affiliate partnerships, what technology advice does and how we work with affiliates, how we have organic ranking content, right? You can do affiliate with paid, with organic, socials, emails. Like there's so many different ways to go about it and the different kinds of brands that you can work with. And so I feel like that's largely the biggest kind of like teacher hat that we put on is really having people understand the immense value that our portfolio of brands that technology advice is able to offer. Um, I will say, you mentioned a little bit earlier that something's always changing with Google, right? It's always changing, and I think that's also something that we all learn together at the same time, right? How to address this, what we can do to ride these positive waves, or move around difficulties, whatever that could be. And something that I'm thinking of right now, right, is AI overviews. What does that look like? How does the actual search engine result page shift and ebb and flow every other week, it feels like? And what does that mean for affiliate partnerships? And that's something that is brand new that I am really excited myself to learn more about. And I know, we're already looking at technology advice has seen a lot of success showing up in those AI overviews. And so it's something that we're currently really excited about.
That's amazing. That's so near and dear to what we're seeing. I'm beyond thrilled and excited and hopeful and passionate about all the AI changes and stuff coming. It's hard to keep up with it all. It's slightly overwhelming. I was lucky enough to host a panel here at the Capital Factory in Austin, which was a blast, and they had a bunch of AI, um, you know, focused marketers on there who've dealt with AI, who are investing in AI companies, who are building an AI company, who are at Fortune 500s that are already using it quite heavily. So it was a fun one, and the AI overview thing was a huge shift and change, obviously, and that going back to what I shared about Kevin's data on SEO and our data, that was a material part of that change, that challenge and that step change that a lot of sites are seeing. And so how do you kind of adjust to that, just like we all gotten things that we have to adjust to over the past 20 years in performance marketing. It really does, like you said, take a willingness and ability to like rethink assumptions and stay up to date on updates that are coming from Google and other providers and platforms. So I think you nailed it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it's. I had another thought on AI. I think the interesting thing, I don't know how you are, but I am using a ton of chat GPT, excuse me. I've kind of found perplexity to be really interesting and really helpful, and just like it seems like a better visual result that I like, and I can see the sources a little bit more effectively.
Mhm.
I don't know how your behavior's changed, but it feels like I have shifted a lot of audio questions to them, personal, professional. Um, it's just been really helpful, and it's kind of wild to see like how my own user behavior is changing. And so my hypothesis is like that's just going to continue for a lot of individuals. Obviously, it's small sample size, but I'm not sure what you're seeing there. Any interesting things you're seeing in the tooling or the user of your own behavior on AI?
I feel like I'm a late adopter. As
Yeah,
someone from Silicon Valley, which I think is the funniest part.
yeah,
but
you and me both.
Yeah, typically a later adopter of I want to see how things play out. I want to
Hmm.
see what kind of value it starts to add, and if there's any issues that arise with it, right? Like
Hmm.
when Google first rolled out the AI overviews and didn't go too well, right? There
Yeah,
were some
correct.
interesting results that were given, and seeing just watching how the industry reacts to that is so valuable,
Hmm.
I think, for me.
Yep.
And so, yeah, of course, I was on ChatGPT. I think I was one of the earliest, probably, people on it, but I didn't really use that for any of my personal or professional. It was more fun. I was testing it, trying to figure out,
Yeah.
could it answer the questions that I was asking, and could I beat it? Right. And I think that was the most fun, trying to ask the most nuanced and niche questions that I could. But yeah, I feel like not yet. Probably hasn't fully changed any of my personal behavior,
Yeah.
but I see it, interacting with and changing so much around me that I'm sure.
Yeah. I like that you were trying to beat the Chat GPT algo, and I respect your competitiveness.
A little healthy competitiveness is always
Hell,
good.
it's all good. It's all good. Gotta kind of test and see and validate, right? Keep
Yeah,
me
and
on my
in
toes.
partnerships, I feel like that's very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Um, yeah, it was so funny. I was on a webinar this week hosted by Reforge, who I'm obsessed with, and talk about tech. I mean, they are just like the growth educators of tech, it feels like, for product and for growth. And I've taken way too many of their courses. It's just so fun. But they had an AI expert on. First name was Chang. She was really impressive, and she was talking about how like where they're at in the AI adoption curve for SEO, where they're at in AI adoption for a number of areas, even influencers, which was really fascinating. And it feels like there's definitely like a hype phase that we're in right now that's quite high. I don't think we're quite maybe at peak, but maybe close. And then I feel like some might disagree with that. It feels like there's still a way to go, obviously, on consolidation. Who are the winners? Like, what is the value, like you talked about? Is it consistently delivering what you're asking? Are there errors? Because, like, obviously, you alluded to them. When they first rolled out, there was a bunch of issues. There's still inconsistencies and errors in accuracy now. So, when is that going to get resolved? Um, but I was very impressed. I found it very interesting that it might be even available for members and non-members. But I would definitely take a look because they asked her specifically, like, okay, to get your results to show up in Perplexity and ChatGPT, it was like she's starting to report the ability to do that, but like she couldn't comment on the signals that she has. There's very little insight into how. So like that
Mm,
SEO playbook for Google, it's not even there yet for AI and
yeah.
these platforms, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, it is interesting, just as a publisher trying to kind of, ask ChatGPT questions that we would answer, on the site and see who they're involving. is really interesting, who they're citing. I was very excited to see technology advice pop up in a handful of those responses already. But yeah, I think that's like another kind of untapped area that's going to be absolutely huge, trying to figure out how to be competitive in that space because it's so open to everyone and everyone's using it, for personal, professional, whatever it is. That's something I'm definitely excited to
Yeah,
to see kind of roll out in the next couple of years.
that's awesome. I'm not surprised that technology advice is already showing up. I would expect you guys to. So that's a testament to the brand and content machine you guys have built up and the quality, and hopefully that continues. I no doubt it will. Speaking of what you guys are doing, when it comes to like data and KPIs, is there anything that you kind of go through in terms of a checklist or kind of a um, best practice, or like what are some of those KPIs that you're kind of working through with your team and with brands that are testing out and growing on the technology advice platform?
Yeah, I think brands always have, just like any company, everyone has their own unique set of KPIs, right? And they come to you with them, and that's always something established at the very beginning of a partnership, just kind of metrics of success, whatever that looks like.
Hmm.
Um, I think for my team, and for working with partnerships and really understanding kind of the metrics of success that we have for the partnerships and how, in the same kind of verticals and how they compare to one another. We really look at the how our audience engages with multiple partners, and really looking at insights kind of more broadly across an entire vertical, what those conversion rates look like, and really trying to identify what is the optimized asset, what is the optimized thing that is leading to a higher conversion rate or is leading to an increase in clicks or whatever that could be, the click-through rate, conversion rate, anything. And sometimes that's on the publisher side, right? Sometimes I think you'll always see higher click-through rates for a free product, a freemium product, right?
Hmm.
Um, but sometimes that's also on the partner side. And that's something that technology advice and my team is, really kind of, I think, uniquely good at helping our partners with and really understanding how they differentiate from the
Hmm.
competitors in their space and how we would suggest they optimized based on the hundreds of partnerships that we currently have.
That's awesome. Very cool. Is there I had something I'm gonna try to recall it here as I fumble my question. Is there kind of like a example or like a poster child for some give the brands out there something to shoot for, and without sharing the name of the brand perhaps or the specific secret sauce, do you have maybe examples where a brand, a partner of Technology Vice, really kind of nailed it, just like the whole end-to-end strategy, the result, I'm curious because I feel like there's a lot of great businesses out there that, and even teams like us that don't necessarily know how to fully um, follow the best practice for your team, or maybe know how to unlock it properly. So I'm wondering if you maybe have some examples that are like, man, this brand really nailed it. This is what they did really well. If you could be like that, if you could try to emulate some of that within your KPIs, within your strategy, it would be a win.
Yeah, I think, without naming brands, um, I think that there's a lot of really great lessons, I think, across multiple brands. So this isn't unique to just one partnership that we have, but I do think that, really understanding the publisher that you are working with, really understanding the audience that publisher is working with, really understanding the SEO, the paid, the email, that whatever channels that publisher has that you are engaged with, and understanding why you add value to that user, to that audience member. That is key, and I've talked about this at events that I think both of us have been at previously, but really understanding like, how do I match the intent of that audience, and offering that as valuable information to the publisher, to the partnership rep that you work with, so that they can go and really kind of, bolster that effort with their internal teams. I think that's like one of the most important things that we've seen. Also, a willingness to kind of, funny that this is always be testing, but always test, right? Always test out your landing pages, always test out your CTA language, always test out everything, right? Because I think one of the biggest value adds of working in affiliate and working across all these publishers is your ability to do that so freely with affiliate links and testing them out, rerouting them, A/B testing. There's so many options. And so really where we've seen a lot of success is working very closely with the brands that, use us as the option, right, for all of the audience and for all of the impressions that we can drive to really test out what performs best with our audience. And so, I think a broader answer to your question, but a very, very important one is like really understanding, although it takes time, it's so important for the success, I guess, of the campaign long term.
Love that. That's just music to my ears, not just because it's the pod namesake, but obviously it's good reason. I mean, we truly want to emulate that, want to live that, and it takes some time for a number of sophisticated businesses to kind of like get into that cadence and get into that mindset and to carve out time, space, budget, expectations to do that properly. It's much easier said than done, but what an amazing reminder. I absolutely love that. So thank you.
Of course.
Uh, yeah, speaking of that, if there's other learnings is just such a huge piece of the pod and the conversation. If there's other maybe experiments or learnings that you want to share, obviously without disclosing any brand names, that's always fantastic to learn or hear about. Obviously, the team can the audience and team can like learn more and ask you further. But if you have other like examples, it's always nice to hear those. Maybe some that surprised you, or maybe were like, oh wow, wasn't expecting that, or that didn't go as well as planned, or that performed really well. If there's examples that you want to share, I'm sure the audience would love to hear.
Yeah, I mean, probably so many that I don't even know where to start here.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think one of the things like I really love in terms of engagement, and I feel like is very straightforward, but is always an interesting reminder, is just always adding value. Right, your product alone probably is amazing. I don't know. We're talking about a random product here, but it's probably amazing. Why is it amazing? And how specific can you get to the exact audience that you are speaking to, and put yourself in the shoes of that audience? If I'm a contractor looking for payroll for one employee, I don't know, whatever it is.
Yep.
What could that look like, right? Why does your product add very specific value, right? And that's where I think we kind of get these more focused conversion rate improvement plans, hyper focused on that audience that you're speaking to. Another one in terms of adding value, right, is downloadable content. It's awesome. It's awesome. People love it. People really enjoy getting something that is going to add value to their business, right? And that's a higher funnel lead, but that is still really, an important piece, educating the audience that you want, and in turn, educating them and probably putting your product in there as a CTA
Yeah.
is a really
Yeah.
important thing as well, right?
Yeah.
I have a twin who had a restaurant, and he, like building out this really cool company and building, hiring people and all of this. And, I'm sure he got a lot of resources from fitsmallbusiness.com. I actually know for a fact he did, because I told him.
I
But,
love
it's like
that.
really, understanding how that ties in. Yeah,
Gotta help out, bro, and in your twin there. That's amazing.
always.
That's so cool. I love that. What a cool story. Um, you're obviously leading a team. You manage teams. Do you have some maybe recommendations? Excuse me. In leading a team, I'm sure you have some good recommendations around just what's worked, and how do you handling and managing folks and supporting them, and trying to build out that high performing team in the SaaS world and the technology advice world. I'm just curious to know if there's any counsel or advice you have for how you do that, or ways you do that well.
Yeah, well, I will say, technology advice really has some pretty beautiful core values that I suggest everyone goes and checks out on their homepage. But managing within those core values, I think is really important. The team that I have is phenomenal. They really, really are. They are an incredibly high performing partnerships team, very, very dedicated to the many websites that we have and to the affiliate partnerships. That we have. We, as you work with us, we really, really focus on long-term strategic partnerships, right? Like long-term win-win relationships that we consider evergreen, that we want to just, build out for a very, very long time, as long as that the products are relevant, people are searching for those products. I think just probably more from less partnerships and more just a management thing. I really believe in, radical transparency, and requesting kind of constant feedback loops, um, about myself as a manager, about the team structure, about what's going right, what's going wrong, and really kind of fostering an environment where everyone feels like they're allowed to speak up, and that they can speak up about anything that they perceive to be, something really positive or negative, or opportunities for growth, really giving everyone a seat at the table.
It's awesome. Easier said than done, and always hard to know how radical do you get with your radical transparency.
Yes. Yes.
Um, no, but in all candor, for no pun intended, like the Radical Candor book is so spot on, and I think some of the Dalio knowledge, he gets a little maybe some polarizing out there for folks that are not as into it, but I think some of his principles around on candor are just so valuable. And I've always been a huge fan of 1 Minute Manager. We don't always nail that and stick that landing, but I feel like it's so valuable to for folks to know where they're at, in somewhat more real time, and not be waiting for surprises as much as we possibly can give people feedback and proactive. It's something that I think some teams struggle with, and I think that the teams that are really high performing are pretty well aligned on that. They kind of know where they're standing, and so I really appreciate you sharing that. Those are some good
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah, I will just say, what you said, I think really high performing teams all feel an investment in that goal, right? And whatever that goal is, to create fantastic strategic partnerships, to, really build out partnerships across the portfolio, really like ownership in that goal, I think is so valuable. And whatever the goal is for that team, really making sure that everyone does feel like they have, not only a seat at the table, but that they're like very, very involved and they're a piece of that success.
Yeah, I like that. Getting that alignment is, um, yeah, it's so important. It's so important. Show me the incentives, and I'll show you the outcome. Kind of have to, little Warren Buffett love there, but yeah, it's important to kind of ensure people are rowing in the same direction, and takes some work. So congrats to get to where you have been able to do that with a great team. So it's not easy.
Yeah, thank you. I feel very lucky to have the team that I do.
No, it's awesome. It shows, and kind of how you all show up, and how we work together and how you are. So it's well done. Speaking of well done, we're taking down the home stretch here. We're going to talk about some fun stuff. What's Since we talk software all the time with technology advice, and you and I do talk software on occasion, what is there some tools out there that you're using that you love or want to share with the audience? Just anything, could be personal software, could be professional software. Just since we're in that space, what anything that you like out there?
Oh, so many things. So many things. I mean, I think I'm Slack's number one supporter. I love Slack. I love working on it.
Same.
It has changed the game of communication. So that's obviously on the professional side. I don't use that personally yet. Um, but I will say on on a fun side, I was never a person who grew up playing games of any kind, like no video
hmm
games or anything.
hmm
And I was just introduced to the world of Xbox.
Oh,
And I'm
watch
having a
out.
great time and I am learning how to play. And so that is a very Shout out to Microsoft. I'm having a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Talk about another world. Talk about an amazing world. I'm blown away by how much adoption and money is in that. I believe it does more than the movie industry, if I'm correct.
Wow.
I believe I have an interesting view there. I'm not a gamer. I don't have a system. I don't have a console, but I so appreciate, and I when I get to play it, it's like um, I could see how it could draw me in and it make it mildly addicting
Yeah.
or heavily addicting. But it's just amazing what they've created, and imagine where it's going to be, in the future. It's just wild.
Yeah. I don't know if I could ever, be one of those incredibly dedicated gamers, but
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
fun, to kind of revisit something that I feel like I skipped
yeah.
in my childhood.
Uh, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, you got to give yourself that time to kind of just go into play mode sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like I like that. Is there any fun product? I know you kind of Xbox kind of covers it, but is there any others that you personally like want to share or that I think you kind of covered both, but
Yeah. I think those are the two that popped into my head.
cool. Cool. Well, I like it. Any game that you maybe suggest to the audience or anything that you maybe a game that you're eyeing for the future?
Honestly, I've, to be completely honest, I have only played one game. So, Little Kitty, Big City is the name.
Okay. Okay.
And you are a cat that falls off of a balcony and you have to make your way up.
That's amazing.
It's really fun.
That's amazing. Now, is this because you're in New York-ish that you kind of find this to be funny? Like I'm picturing like
I mean,
a
honestly,
cityscape here.
I didn't, I really don't know anything. And my partner is a big fan of gaming and grew up with it. And so I was
That's awesome.
introduced, through them. And it was, it's just, I love it. It's so fun. I'm really, really bad, but I really enjoy it.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
It's great to get to know those things and hear more. Is there any fun fact or random thing that maybe most folks don't know about you that you want to share with the audience?
Two. The first is that I have pet a wild baby whale. Yeah.
Wow.
He came
Not
up.
just a baby whale, a wild baby whale.
Yeah, yeah. So like not in captivity is what I mean. So
Got it.
like wild, living his best life out in the ocean. And he came
That's
up,
really amazing.
next to our boat, and I was able to boop, touch him right on the nose, and it was the cutest thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. So
Wow.
that is probably one of my favorite memories. It was in
Where
Mexico.
was it in Mexico? Wow.
Yeah, we were in
Where
Baja, California.
oh my God. What kind of whale?
I don't know. This was, I
Yeah.
should know. I should know. I actually just read an article about it, but there's a sanctuary in Baja, California.
I
And
had no
it's
idea.
where like a lot of whales will come in and, protect their young ones until they're ready to go
Oh.
out into more open ocean. And for some reason, they enjoy coming up to boats, right? Like you're not
Hmm.
allowed to go over to them. They come up to you.
Hmm.
It was such a wild experience in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. One of my favorites was it was like August and then towards the end of our tenure in Seattle, we got to go out to the San Juan Islands area and just see the orcas and it was mind blowing. I
Yeah.
didn't get to have that level of an experience and actually touch one, but like we were
I don't
so
think I'd want
close.
to touch an orca.
Yeah, I don't even know how that works. I'll spare the audience with my speculation there, but it was a blast. It was gorgeous weather. It was it's such a insanely beautiful area. We saw like bald eagles and like
Wow.
gorgeous forests, trees, um, and it just is insane. And to see like these beautiful animals, it was mind blowing. That's really cool. What was your other one?
My other one is that I have lived in, before I went to high school and even to today, I've lived in more countries than I have states in the United States because I moved around a
What?
lot as a child.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it
that's
was a
not
very fun
common.
childhood.
Can you give us the countries and the states?
Yeah, I mean, I lived in so I was born in California, Silicon Valley kid,
Yep.
but I lived in California. We moved to Canada, we moved to Mexico, we moved to the United Kingdom.
Wow.
We so I lived in Oxford, and then we also moved to Hawaii, but not a different country.
Yep.
And then
D-
California. So and then I
That's
moved to New York.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Some really amazing places.
It was a wonderful childhood, and I always feel so genuinely lucky that I had my twin brother because moving around a lot, it's like friendships. And so I always had a built in best friend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What an amazing that's so cool. I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I love that. Very cool. Very interesting. Um, Zoe, this has been awesome. You've dropped so much knowledge, shared your experiences and your career and all the cool stuff that you guys are doing at Technology Advice. You guys are amazing partners for us and our clients. And definitely encourage folks to reach out to you and to learn more. And if you're not already integrating at some level with Technology Advice, you probably should be if you're anywhere remotely in the affiliate marketing world or the brand advertising world for a tech company, especially SaaS and software. So thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Always learn a lot.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And for folks that want to connect with you, what's the easiest way for them to do that?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn.
Cool.
I am an active LinkedIn participant, so they can go
You
ahead
should.
and do that. Otherwise, Technology Advice has there's ways to contact us there as well.
Awesome. Zoe, thank you so much. It was a pleasure and have an awesome Friday and a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you.